Good morning, dear sir and dear friends. We are group 6 and there are 5 members in our group, including me. I'm Sachini Pereira. So I do the introduction and I'm going to discuss with you the importance of broadcast area and Wernicke's area. Then Samudini Ekanayam will talk about the postmortem examination, and then Aisha will discuss with you about the FMRI examination, and Shamukta Vijayaratan will discuss with you on EEG examination, and finally conclusion will be done by Aura Leonarachi. Okay, today we embark our fascinating journey working on human brain, and also especially we focus on language related regions such as Broca's area and Wernicke's area. Our exploration will discuss with you today and also we focus on the postmortem examination, FMRI and EEGs. Through this presentation, we aim to discuss with you the advantages, disadvantages of these methods, and also we would like to focus on the significant contribution of these methods in language and mind. Okay, let's start. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them at the end of the presentation. I would like to start to talk about the significance of studying language-related regions of the brain by a saying by Steven Pinker. He has mentioned about a brain like this: the jewel in the crown of cognition. What is language? Language we can consider as a fundamental aspect of human communication and cognition. So this plays a crucial role by working on and also talk about the valuable insights into how language is produced, how it's understood, and also how language is processed. So, investigating the language-related regions of the brain can help shed light on various aspects of language processing, including syntax, semantics, pragmatics, phonology. So, considering the language-related regions, basically we can discuss there are two main language-related regions such as Broca's area and Wernicke's area. Both play a crucial role by studying the language, and also each of these regions have, and also they are different importance, while language production, comprehension, and also translation. Furthermore, these knowledge is crucial for not only understanding a normal language, but also this is we can diagnosing and also we can treating language disorders. So considering the language related regions of the brain, so we can see this is very essential for us to gain and also our knowledge of language, and also we can consider the cognition and also language functions, etc. Okay, now let's move to see the importance of the language-related regions, Broca's area and Wernicke's area. So when we talk about Broca's area, so both plays a crucial role in the human brain. So we all know about that. So Broca's area is located in the frontal lobe of the brain, and also that is focus on, and that is importance for speech production. When it has damage, so that has become effect for the speech production and also for grammatically correct sentences. And focusing on when it see that is located in the temporal lobe of the brain, and that has responsible for language comprehension. So now we can see both plays a major role in the brain. So let's move to the see the significance of postmortem examination and the advantages of and disadvantages of this by Samudri Edanayake. Over to you, Samudri.
Thanks, Sajini. So far you learned about what Broca's areas are, what Wernicke's areas are, and what the purposes of those areas are. So in this particular slide, I'm going to talk about postmortem examination. So in the past, there were several ancient methods which were used by scientists to study about the brain, and now we have the modern methods. So the first one is postmortem examination. So it's the first modern method, and this postmortem examination can be used to study a dead person. So if you want to find the cause of the death of that person, or if you want to find whether there are any underlying disorders if that person has encountered when he was alive, that also can be found using this postmortem examination. So in the next slide, I'm going to talk about how this postmortem examination contributes to language-related brain study. As we all know, this examination helps to study the questions and also the language-related disorders, which are more similar to these language-related areas. Just think that if a particular person is having several structural abnormalities like changing of size, shape, and decolorization, or sometimes lesions, if those areas are damaged due to cancers, tumors, and also if a particular person is having the malformation of those areas like changing the original shape and all, so they can come up with conclusions like, so those particular areas have been destructed or damaged. So that's how this postmortem examination contributes to language-related brain study. So in the next slide, I'm going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of postmortem examination. So the main advantage is that since this examination is done to a dead person, and you can see once the organs are intersected, you can see the parts. So if there is any disorder, the visible results can be seen. So it's the key advantage. And the disadvantage is that this method cannot be used to study a live brain activity because the person is dead. So that's about postmortem, and in the next slide, the second method will be discussed by Aisha.
Okay, thank you, Samudri. So you have identified what is postmortem. So now I am going to talk about what is fMRI. So let us start. Okay. So first of all, have you any idea about the fMRI? Okay, I'll tell you. fMRI, that real mean functional magnetic resonance imaging. So fMRI is a brain imaging technique that measure blood flow changes to identify active brain region. So it helps. fMRI helps to understand brain function and localization of activity and connectivity. So finally, briefly, I can say fMRI is a tool used in neuroscience to identify what are the brain function and how it helpful to language process. So next, move on to the second slide. The second slide, how does fMRI contribute to language-related brain study? So first of all, I will say fMRI helps identify specific brain regions involved in language process, like language comprehension and language production and semantic processing and language disorders and finally linguistics. So first one, I will say language production. So let me
identify brain regions during listening or reading tasks. And third one, I'll say lingualism. So, have any idea about the lingualism? What's lingualism?
Languages?
So, lingualism is compare the brain activation when compare the brain activation when speech the lingualism is compare the brain activation with when speech brain compare brain activation when switch between languages. And fourth one, language disorders. So example language disorders, fMRI helps to identify language disorders like aphasia and dyslexia, like that. So let's move on to the this is advantages and disadvantages of fMRI. So here are some advantages of fMRI. First one, actually fMRI is easy to use and it doesn't it's no radiation extra like X-ray, CT scan and PET scans like that. So it safely evaluate brain function. It's safe evaluate brain function. So here are disadvantages of fMRI. So first one, it's so expensive. And second one, requires the person being scanned to remain completely still. And third one, limited understanding of its mechanism by researchers. So over to you, Chandra.
Right, so thank you, Aisha. And so far, we learned about how fMRI works. So in my slides, I'm going to talk about how EEG works, right? Or else, how electroencephalogram works, right? So just let me come up with an overview about EEG first. So it's the third modern method of which we use to learn, which we use to study the brain. So it can be done when a certain person is alive, so that we can learn we can study the live brain activities through that, right? So when it comes to EEG, it's quite similar to ECG as well. So the main difference in between those two is where the electrodes are placed, right? So when it comes to ECG, the electrodes will be placed on chest, whereas in EEG, the electrodes will be placed on scalp by applying a conductive gel, right? So what will happen after is, so the electrodes will be generated, the signals which are coming from the brain, and it will be displayed on a certain monitor as wave patterns, right? So I think you have a basic idea about EEG. So we'll move to the next slide. Right, so here I'm going to talk about how does EEG contribute to language-related brain study. So as an example, let's say there is a certain person who is involved in reading, writing, listening and speaking, right? So the certain language-related areas which are responsible for those activities which I just mentioned will be displayed on a certain monitor as wave patterns, right? So it can also be identified very easily because each and every one of those wave patterns will be varies to one another, right? They won't be similar to each other. Because why I'm saying that, so if there is a certain wave pattern, we can identify it, like what kind of activity does this certain wave pattern relates to, right? So also it helps us very easily to identify if there is any kind of disorder, right? So if there is a disorder, the same thing will happen, the wave pattern will be changed, right? So how it's going to change is, there will be a spike, a rapid spiking wave pattern in it, right? So in addition to that, if the certain language related areas have been damaged due to tumors or cancers, the same thing will be happen. The wave patterns will be changed, right? So how it's going to change is there will be an unusual slow wave patterns in it, right? So that's how we can identify if there is any kind of if there is any damages which has happened to those language related areas. So the next slide, I'm going to talk about disadvantages and advantages which may occur due to EEG, right? So let me talk about advantages first. So when it comes to advantages, so first the patient can have an on-the-spot feedback about the report, right? So it may help him to have a look on this the certain monitor, and the EEG waves will be displayed on that monitor. So if there is any kind of disorder, the patient also can see it, right? So it is highly essential because of that, and it is very useful to a person, right? So when it comes to disadvantages, so disadvantages are when it comes to this EEG report, so it cannot be done in a rush, right? Because if the certain person has got low blood pressure, or else if he has used kind of medicines or drugs or caffeine containing drinks, right? Or else if he has got an oily scalp with hair, right? So if he has got those kind of reasons, if you have got those kind of reasons, the actual reading won't be displayed on that certain monitor. Because why I'm saying that, due to those reasons which I have mentioned, so the actual reading will be hindered, right? So that the person who is subjected to EEG has to follow the safety precautions beforehand to acquire an accurate reading on EEG. So that's pretty much it. So the rest and the conclusion will be done by a team member. Over to you.
Good morning, my dear teacher and my fellow students. Let's talk about understanding brain-language connections. So let's take the main points, the main strengths and limitations of each methods previously mentioned. Postmortem examination, strength is reveals detailed brain structure. I mean, it's the only method we can take the brain, I mean, simply saying like into our hand and mess with it. You can do whatever you want to get the perfect idea you are looking for. And the limitation is it's limited to studying disease brain. That means lacks real-time data, right? And fMRI, the main strength is it's provide real-time functional insights, and also it's non-invasive. Non-invasive means in medicine it's described a procedure that does not require inserting an instrument through the skin or into body opening. And the limitations of fMRI is it's expensive. It's very expensive even in private hospitals in Sri Lanka. And it's limited spatial resolution. Limited spatial resolution means it might be challenging to precisely pinpoint where in the particular brain region the activity is occurring. That's the main limitation of fMRI. And the third one is EEGS. Strength is it offers high temporal resolution and is cost effective. High temporal resolution means it can detect and display rapid changes in electrical activity occurring in the brain. And limitation is limited spatial resolution, like I explained before, and vulnerable to interference. That means it means that the recorded brain signals may not be entirely pure. I mean, it can be disturbed by muscle activity, electromagnetic noise, or eye movements. And those are the main points of limitations and strengths. And let's move on to collective impact. And you can see these are the main points of postmortem fMRI and EEGS. And what is the holistic understanding we gain through this? By combining these methods, we gain comprehensive view of how Broca's and Wernicke's areas function in both structure and activity. That's the main, very important point, structure and activity. And significant contribution. The collaborative approach significantly advances our understanding of brain-language relationship in general, and each method contributes uniquely, creating collective impact on unwinding the complication of how brain processes the language. And you might ask what is the best method? I mean, we can't say which is best because they have the unique pros and cons of each method. But widely, most commonly used method is fMRI because this technique can detect the smallest changes and is useful in both diagnosis of disease and the development of treatments. And fMRI uses very powerful magnets and can localize brain activity changes to regions as small as 1 cubic millimeter. And so that's why the fMRI is commonly used. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, you might ask right now.
Any questions? Rajat, you want to ask any questions? Right, let me ask a question. Now, in your presentation, you all actually discussed all three methods in talking about the strengths, weaknesses, limitations, and focusing very clearly on how these three methods have contributed to the field of language and mind. That's really good. But what I would like to ask from your team is what ethical consideration should be taken into account when we conduct post-mortem examinations to study the language-related regions of the brain, as opposed to different other methods that you discussed about fMRI and EEG.
Ethical consideration.
Yes, what ethical consideration that you would have to consider when conducting post-mortem examinations to study the language-related regions of the brain, as opposed to fMRI and EEG.
So the main problem regarding the postmortem is, if there's a person with disability of speech or something related to language, we have to wait till that person dies, right? Otherwise, we can't do an exam or can't identify how that the reason of that disability. So for the postmortem, we have to wait until that person dies and find out if there's any abnormality or disorder or if anything's wrong in the brain related to that language area. So comparing to that, other methods are there are like so many advantages. Like if there's a person with disability of speaking, we can get the test results at the moment he's having that problem. So I think that might answer your question.
Yes, Samukani. Yes.
Yeah, when considering postmortem, so once you are doing it, you have to get the consent letter of the patient's party. So unlike others, when considering fMRI and EEGs, you don't need the consent letter. But when it comes to postmortem, you have to get it because we can't force them you have to do this. We can't force like that. So they can give the consideration only, consent letter only. We can do that.
Because my question was actually about ethical consideration. You can't just do a post-mortem to just because a person has died. You can't just do a post-mortem. So you have to either get a court order or you have to get a consent as your team member pointed out. So that ethical consideration part is important to understand as the language and mind study. Thank you.
You're